The Ultimate Fighting Championship, better known as the UFC, is no longer just a cage filled with fists and fury. It's a billion-dollar empire, a global phenomenon, and a proving ground for some of the toughest athletes on the planet. But behind the brutal knockouts and roaring crowds lies a world of untold stories, mind-blowing stats, and shocking facts that even die-hard fans might not know. From wild beginnings in underground-style tournaments to scientific training that borders on superhumans, here are the most unbelievable, jaw-dropping truths about the UFC that will change the way you see the octagon forever. The UFC's first event had almost no rules. When the UFC first launched in 1993, it wasn't the polished, rules-heavy sport we know today. It was practically a street fight with cameras. UFC 1 was marketed as a tournament to determine the most effective martial art in real combat. That moment not only introduced the power of grappling to mainstream audiences, but also set the UFC on a path toward revolutionizing combat sports. Looking back, UFC 1 feels more like an underground fight club than the multi-million-dollar sporting events we see today. Bruce Buffer discovered he was related to Michael Buffer through a business call. Before he became the booming voice of the UFC, Bruce Buffer was a man chasing opportunities, unaware that his destiny was echoing through boxing arenas under a name he hadn't even connected to his bloodline. Their story didn't begin with a dramatic family reunion or some teary-eyed DNA reveal. It began with business. Bruce had been watching Michael's meteoric rise in the world of boxing. With his tuxedos, silver hair, and unforgettable voice, Michael had become the gold standard of fight announcing. After digging into public records and tracing back family ties, they confirmed it. The two men shared the same father, a man who had been absent from Bruce's life for decades. When they finally spoke for the first time, it wasn't for a fight, it was for a business meeting. Bruce, ever the entrepreneur, suggested that they combine their talents and form a partnership. Instead of viewing each other as competitors, they decided to build an empire together. Bruce took on the role of Michael's manager and business partner, helping him secure trademarks and launch an empire based around his iconic phrase. A black belt in one martial art is impressive, but some UFC fighters are walking encyclopedias of combat. Take Georges St-Pierre, for example. The former welterweight and middleweight champion holds black belts in karate, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and Kyokushin, and has high-level training in boxing, wrestling, and Muay Thai. This mix of skills isn't rare in modern MMA, it's necessary. Gone are the days when you could dominate with just one style. Today's champions are experts in at least 4 or 5 disciplines, and they blend them seamlessly. The UFC has become a battleground for hybrid warriors, where versatility isn't just an advantage, it's survival. Joe Rogan has been with the UFC since the 90s, and he's a black belt too. Most people know Joe Rogan as the voice of the UFC and the host of the Joe Rogan Experience. But what many don't realize is that he's a legit martial artist himself. Rogan is a black belt in Taekwondo and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and was once a national Taekwondo champion. He began working with the UFC back in 1999 and interviewing fighters in post-fight segments. His deep knowledge of the sport, combined with his unmistakable voice and colorful commentary, has made him one of the most recognizable figures in MMA. Unlike many commentators in other sports, Rogan speaks from real experience, and it shows in every fight call. Conor McGregor was the first UFC fighter to hold 2 belts at once. Love him or hate him, Conor McGregor made history. In 2016, he knocked out Eddie Alvarez to win the UFC lightweight title, making him the first fighter in UFC history to hold 2 titles in different weight classes simultaneously. He already held the featherweight belt, which he had taken from Jose Aldo with a record-setting 13-second KO. McGregor's double champ status changed the game. It opened the door for others like Daniel Cormier and Amanda Nunes to do the same. But Conor wasn't just a fighter, he was a brand. His brash personality, sharp suits, and verbal warfare turned him into MMA's biggest global star, making millions inside and outside the cage. The UFC is a violent ballet of skill, science, and strategy. But what happens behind the scenes and deep within the stats is often even more fascinating than what we see on Fight Night. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, stay sharp and skeptical.